What's up, everybody? Vic Hill, 007 Streams here with the 83K Way again for season 2. We have a great friend of mine, met via LinkedIn, believe it or not. For episode 1, we have Ben Lang. Some of you have heard of him, some of you have not. I walked in here today and the guy already heard of him, which is crazy. But Ben, thank you for joining. I know you're about to go away for 3 freaking months. So thanks for taking the time, man. I would love for you to give your introduction of the laundry list of things that embody Ben Lang.
I'm not that important, as you know. Currently, I'm the founder of Native, which is a cross-language communication platform. Vic and I met through Bunker Labs, which is a nonprofit that serves veteran startup founders. And I also teach at Parsons School of Design, which is where I studied strategic design management in my undergrad after I got out of the military.
Yeah. What did you do in the military?
I served in the 75th Ranger Regiment as part of Army Special Operations, and I wrapped up my career as an intelligence officer at the DIA.
Wow. No pushover, you know what I mean? But
it's not that crazy. Anybody can do it.
Anybody can do it.
Anybody can do it.
But again, man, thank you so much for taking the time out. What we usually start with is where you started. So from the Ranger Regiment, getting out of the military, going to DIA, and then I know you mentioned Native, but there's a lot of other companies too that you've been involved with, either as an advisor or started or co-founded. So where did it all? How would you describe how it started for you?
You can measure all of that in gray hair and hair loss, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I think that wanting to go into business for myself is something that I talked about for a long, long time with my brother. And the further and further I got in my military career, I spent the last 4 years that I was active duty in Germany. And that provided me this radical opportunity to just immerse myself in a bunch of other people's cultures. And what I learned, I think, is ultimately that I love people a lot more than I like hunting them. And so ultimately I knew that that's not what I wanted to do. I had a little bit of a hiccup initially. I came home to study mechanical engineering from Germany in August 2009 and had been in a very serious relationship when I left Germany. And that fell apart pretty quickly. So I put myself back to work. I was a reservist at that time. I went to my commander and asked them to, put me in full-time work. And so that's kind of how I really made the full transition to working at the DIA. And that was really something that was just temporary for me to have a nice quality of life. Mm-hmm. I do have a 16-year-old kid. I think he was 4 or 5 at that time. Yeah. So there's some obligation to be a provider and make that all happen. Working at the DIA and then after that working with Palantir, I really figured out again that I didn't want to be in that space. I wanted to do something on my own. I thought I would start out as just subcontracting myself in the intelligence space. And when I shelled out my first business, I told my brother about it, I think the next day or something. And ultimately that was like the trigger point where he was like, holy shit, my brother just built a business overnight. Don't go out and contract yourself. Like, let's pursue something that we're really excited about. Yeah. And so we started Guildsmith. That was my first business.
And what year was that?
I think it was 2011 or 2012.
Wow. So from that business, what was some of that was your first business. So what were some of the lessons learned that you had in starting that? Because, where you're at now is tremendously further, right?
Yeah, I think that's just a part of the startup journey or the entrepreneurial journey is that you're going to fail a million times. I don't really consider anything that I've done as a failure. Mm-hmm. I've learned tremendously from every one of those opportunities. Most of them have been pretty fruitful, but they just haven't been scalable in the way that my business is now, right?
Right.
And so I think when I started, Greg and I were very ambitious about basically wanting to create a venture studio for ourselves where we could launch a bunch of smaller businesses. And so we had created a laundry list of them. And that's actually what we did. I think in the first couple of months, we shelled out like 3 subsidiaries, which is way aggressive.
Yeah.
If you have one great idea, just do that. But ultimately, I think, my brother and I are from a pretty humble background, and we've never had great financial resources at our disposal, right? So everything that we've done has been super scrappy. He had been working in film up to that date, and so I took what he did as a production designer and professionalized that and built infrastructure around that. And out of that spawned Guildsmith Productions. That was one of the companies. We had a technology company called Guildsmith Technologies, and then we started what was ultimately there to help enable us to do government contracting as Viceroy.
I remember Viceroy.
Yeah. Well, Viceroy had a 2.0 more recently that you know about.
Ah.
Yeah.
And that was with your dad?
The most recent one, yeah.
Okay.
The first Viceroy, I think, was started in the end of 2012 or the beginning of 2013.
Okay.
And died a slow death.
I think I have...
Cheers to liquid death.
Yeah. I think I have 2 companies that died a slow death too, but all for the better. Lessons learned.
No, what companies were those?
We Explore.
I don't know. I don't think I've heard about these ever.
No. Long time ago. We Explore and We Function LA. They kind of died a slow death, unfortunately, but it was fun.
I mean, it is fun.
It was fun, putting apps into the store, getting them developed, and product launch, all that stuff. But
what's better than jumping off a cliff and trying to figure out how to build a parachute on the way down?
Nothing. Except for having.
It's exhilarating, to say the least. Yeah.
So from Viceroy, at least from when in 2019, I think it was, just before I left, I remember Viceroy, and then I remember Native just like popping up one day when we were at WeWork or something like that, and you had mentioned it when I ran into you.
Yeah.
From 2019 to now, we're getting into current times.
Fast forward.
Yeah, we're gonna fast forward to current times. But both business, both Native and personally, there seems to have been like exponential growth from that period.
I mean, more recently on the personal level, but Native just had its 2-year birthday in November, which is pretty big for us, and things are going really, really well. And obviously, it's a huge opportunity that I'm lucky to be at the helm of. So,
tell them a little bit about Native, man. It's a big deal.
Yeah. Going to Viceroy, right? So. I leave my job at Axon, which is a technology company, a publicly traded technology company that works in public safety, synonymous with body-worn cameras that police officers wear and stuff. I led the engineering services division there, and when I transitioned away from that, I started business with my dad and a couple of his old customers, actually. They're all from data communications, kind of IT infrastructure backgrounds. I thought it would be unique to bring in my intelligence background and software and product development background. So we spent majority of the first year really pursuing their services focus. And it was moderately successful. I mean, it's still been successful. It's paid for a lot of the bills of Native all through even 2021. But it wasn't scalable or wasn't scaling in the sense that all of us could have the same quality of life that they were having outside of Viceroy. And so ultimately, I started my master's program in August of 2019, and in October of 2019, my dad resigned. So one of the 4 legs of the
Wow.
the stool of viceroy
Yeah.
was gone, and we're left facing the question of what we were going to do with the resources that we had left and how we're going to apply those to being successful. And so we spun up Native. The impetus for that really came from my dad. He knew of a social networking platform that aspired to enable cross-language communication on a social network. And we assessed actually that technology for acquisition, and we ultimately thought that we had a very different vision and a very different way of going about building that technology. I think that but for the audience, when we think about cross-language communication, we're talking about creating access to opportunity for people all over the world. So there's a kid in Africa today, there's a kid in Asia today who has no access to English education, but they have huge dreams just like we've had, right? And by eliminating language barriers, you're leveling the playing field and that access to any opportunity that they want to pursue. So that's the big vision, and that's a vision that can impact all 8 billion people that are on this planet.
Right.
Ultimately, we need big businesses to help us to pay to continue to build our technology and scale it to where we can be that impactful.
But you guys got some pre-seed that came in.
We got some money.
Which is a huge milestone.
If you're watching this and you have money, we need a lot more.
Me too. No, but that was, just seeing the growth of Native over the past 2 years has been awesome. And I know you've been traveling the world, spreading the word and, kind of enjoying that. But it's been amazing to see. So trying to do the same over here with some of the other visions. Bunker Labs, they've, the LA cohort, a lot of them, they hear the name Ben Lang, they're like, I've heard of him. I've never met him in person. So it's been awesome, man.
I really appreciate you stepping up and taking a leadership role, obviously. I'm going to wind it back to military and go deep here for a second, but when I left the active duty Army, I was a platoon sergeant in charge of 65 soldiers, and I relinquished my command over those soldiers to somebody who I didn't think was very qualified to do the job. But as you know, in the military, you have to do that wherever they assign right to the billet. And so for several months, I had horrible nightmares, about my soldiers going off to battle without me, kind of thing. And I very much think that same way about the entrepreneurial ecosystem, right? As you know, I was doing that for the past few years. I think it's really important that for every one of us, we have some aspect of our life where we're serving others selflessly. And now I've transitioned that into, being Professor Ben. But
Professor Ben.
I think it's really important. And for whatever reason, in Los Angeles, I don't think that the veteran entrepreneur community is really embraced and supported in the way that it is many other places. So we've got to continue to dig deep and do the work.
Yeah, a lot on the horizon for 2022, and that's interesting because it's the largest veteran community and active duty state in the country, and the ecosystem is pretty tiny. And support is.
I think that people don't understand military, right? You probably are aware that I am planning to write a book. I'm probably going to start it while I'm in Europe. I think one of the insights that I've uncovered for myself is that the military is really structured, right? In the end, and then people think that war is really chaos, but it's not. War is binary. It's life or death. It's very easy to make all the decisions in the heat of the moment. Leaving the military and transitioning back into civilian life after you've been desensitized for many years and trying to navigate the chaos that is to be unsupported in this civilian world is really challenging, right? And so all those veteran founders out there are trying to figure out how to transact on this great vision that they have for their small business or their potentially big startup. but they don't have the same type of infrastructure that the military provides, right? Where you know where your chow's coming from and where your uniform's coming from and all those kind of things. So
it's the Wild West. Yeah,
it is,
unfortunately, but it's being built slowly. The LA cohort, thankfully, is getting its act together. We're doing better, and especially as volunteers, you know, we constantly go through our own little growth changes. But
I hope by the way, I hope that by asking Lauren to apply and become a part of the cohort, you know, that she can be an anchor there, you know, with all of her experience and obviously just the trials and tribulations that she's gone through with me. Like, I'm super lucky to have a rock star like her to work with. So hopefully she's.
No, I look forward to getting to know her, and that way we'll dig into all the native trials that you guys have gone through.
For sure. Yeah. You guys kick off this week?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We'll see how it goes.
Let me know.
I did want to touch on some of that personal growth that you went through. Because...
What's sweeter, liquid death or the taste of personal growth?
Personal growth. Because it often gets swept under the rug. They'll see all the success that... Someone will look at you and say, like, wow, he's, you know, going to Europe for 3 months. He just got back from another trip for however long. And his company got a pre-seed round, so he must be doing amazing. But there's all those underlying things that kind of contribute to every day. And we've talked about it before, but...
They're tripping if that's what they're thinking.
I know. Today was hectic alone.
I'm just a good old backwoods boy who knows how to make a champagne taste out of a beer budget, you know? That's the honest truth there. It might look amazing on social media or something like that. And that's ultimately what social media does, right? It represents the best version of you that you could possibly put out there. Mm-hmm. And there's, you know, not a lot of connection to the darkness and all of the muck that you have to sort through, right? So I don't know that there's a starting place for me. I do know that I left the longest relationship of my life at the end of 2020 or in the fall of 2020, and having that space has been really amazing for me. Mm-hmm. Some other contributing factors are like I wrapped up my MBA in May, and so that created more space in my life. And then we've not taken any new customers in Viceroy, so I'm also not really operating a second business. All of those things have made me available in a way that I've never been available to work on myself or be available to other people that I really care about. Yeah. So I feel really blessed that way. And when you talk about, you know, travel and those kind of things, it's like those are all relationships that are bearing fruit now, you know, some of them many years later, from when the relationships were formed. But I've been lucky enough to be put up in people's amazing cribs all over the place. So if you know, have airfare, you know, I'm pretty set. So lucky, more than anything, experiencing like a tremendous gratitude that I've never had. But yeah, there's been a lot of work, right? You know, a story that you know about, which is relevant to the entrepreneurial journey here, is that my son and I were living in Charlottesville, Virginia, about 10 months after my brother and I started Guildsmith, and I became bedridden, and I had sold everything that was of any value to my name to start that business. Yeah. And in the face of that, I had to move my son in with my dad. I taught myself some Adobe skills overnight, applied to get into Parsons, right? They accepted me. I went there to stay off my dad's doorstep. My back wasn't getting better. Ended up on my, you know, dad's doorstep anyways. Spent a year, you know, getting epidural injections, doing physical therapy. And it was a very, very dark year. I was suicidal, you know, even share, I guess, just for the audience's sake, like I practiced pulling the trigger on, you know, a semi-automatic handgun against my head many, many times. And in those dark moments, I had designed a wallet product in my first semester at Parsons called Panel Wallet. And that was kind of like the one thing that I clung on to that year. And through that process, I was able to get enough support from, I guess, my friends' network that we were able to successfully kickstart that product, right? And that kind of catalyzed and built the momentum for me to get back to school and get out of my dad's house, which was a really negative space, And
Right.
to put some perspective there too, like, my dad's just asking me, like, why are you fully grown adult who is not functioning and is so broken, right? So it was a really, really hard time, but one that, I hold really closely just because of the fight, right? The grit to get through all of that. I went from being a competitive soccer player and backpacking 40 miles in 2.5 days to being stuck in bed. I literally had to crawl with my fingernails up into my bed one night,
Yeah.
So it's pretty debilitating in many ways to have all that taken away.
But so it seems like, a couple of things you touched on, like relationships, keeping those relationships, which is hard in itself over the years, depending on what you're going through at the time, and, people reaching out, you may not, be in this right space to reach back out. Or
what kind of relationship were we talking about here, Vic?
Any. But it seems like your mind kept you from actually pulling the trigger, and your mind working on all those entrepreneurial endeavors actually kept you going, even when you were at rock bottom, which is, to me, that's pretty impressive, just to have that to cling on to and continue going. And although that idea didn't pan out, you've kept going. Didn't panel out.
Okay. All right.
But you've kept going for so long, and it's worked.
It's working now. Yeah.
It's working. It's working.
Yeah. I don't know. I think, I used the word grit just a minute ago. That's it, right? This is not a game for people who think that they're going to hack it and get it right the first time. This is for the person who is willing to risk everything. Yep. Even tonight, after I've had so much experience and I'm experiencing so much success in so many facets of my life, I'll sell you the mattress that I put my head on right now if it's the difference between success and failure. And I'm willing to sleep in the dirt. If you're not willing to sleep in the dirt, get out of the game.
See, that's why I wanted you to come on. Yeah. There's no mic to drop. Don't drop this one because it's pretty pricey. But you said something to that effect a few months ago, maybe 6 months ago when we were on the phone. And that kind of set me on a path to where I was like, you know what? I just need to go all out with the things that I'm working on. Stop holding back, stop, don't be afraid to fail, all that stuff. And so far, it's worked out.
It, dude.
And
you know that.
A lot of the pivots that I've made with my company have been thanks to yourself too, for taking the time. So yeah, man, I appreciate it all around. Relationships.
Yeah, I am so blessed to have you and Hannah in my life and to support you by coming here and being a part of this, and of course in the many other ways that I've tried to make myself available, for sure.
Definitely. Well, look, I'm gonna close this out.
Do it.
We're gonna have you back whenever you get back.
Right.
When you get back, but a few things. So what's next, aside from you leaving for 3 months, but what's next for Native and what's next for you individually? And then after that, just tell everybody where to find you, where to find Native.
Yeah, it's fun. Lauren and I are getting ready to start fundraising again. So it's after the holidays. We need a lot more money. It's just, we're really good with our money too. Super frugal. I think that's probably one of the best things about how we operate. It's just we're so resourceful, and that really comes from having no resources and trying to figure it out. We're also in the process of patenting. We designed over the summer the first methodology for privacy and translated communications. We think that that's going to be really valuable to the enterprise consumer markets, and obviously just the patent itself. Throwing our bows out and making people have to come through us if they want that.
Investors will like that. Yep.
So that's been really special, even to get to a point where we understand the market and the opportunities enough to identify that and pursue that.
Okay.
For me personally, I'm happy for the first time in my life, and I'm in the best place that I've ever been. I'm just going to keep doing that work. I was thinking about when you were talking about whatever you called a mic drop moment there, but in this game, whether it's for yourself or for business, you can have a million no's, but as long as you say yes to yourself, that's all that fucking matters.
Yep. Always.
And so I'm just going to keep saying yes. Just like all these opportunities of travel and stuff, right?
Yes, exactly.
Whatever life is dishing at me, I'm going to say yes. And we're going to go that way.
All right. Cool, man. Well, thank you. Dude, tell everybody where they can find you, find Native.
Natives, nativechats.com. I'm Scooter across the web. So Scooter's feed, Scooter's tweets, Scooter's everything.
Nice.
Thanks, man.
Of course. Hey, thank you guys for tuning in to the 83K Way. Ben Lang, awesome friend of mine. Let us know what you thought. We'll put all his information in the description below there. But yeah, we'll see you guys next time. Thank you.